Good morning, everybody. Dan Thomas here from News 4, but actually from my home. Of course, I'm part of the Forewarned Storm team, and so I've got a little break between newscasts. I'm doing the 9 o'clock newscast today, the noon newscast, and in between at 11 a.m., it just came up on 11 o'clock, we've got Weather School for Kids. So the entire Forewarned Storm team, it's not just me, the whole team's going to be doing this. And we're going to sort of help you out at home if you've got your kids at home. They've been out of school for a couple of weeks. You need some science, ideas. You can spend 10 or 15 minutes with us each weekday morning and learn something about the weather. So today's topic on Weather School for Kids is clouds. Clouds, so interesting and so important for what we do every single day. So important to the farmers because clouds bring rain. In fact, we've got some rainy clouds out there right now. Let's take a look out the window here. And so look up and we've got a solid, we call it a deck of clouds, but a solid layer of clouds. There's so many different types of clouds, and some are interesting to look at. Today is not so much because, again, it's just a solid layer of clouds. Let's talk for a minute about why clouds form, because it's very interesting. We need to get our globe. Globe, of course, is a miniature Earth. So this is upstairs in my office, and probably a little bit of dust on it because I don't use it all that much. But when we talk about clouds, all clouds form in our atmosphere. They all exist in our atmosphere. And the atmosphere is that layer of air. It's a tiny little layer of air that surrounds the Earth, and it's held down by gravity. Gravity is so very important, and so gravity holds down the air. All of our weather that we know it every single day, tornadoes, hurricanes, snowstorms, so many kids like snowstorms, flooding, a lot of interesting types of weather happens in our atmosphere. Now, clouds are formed by, in part, the sun. And so this is being used to light the room, but this is also going to stand for our sun and represent our sun. Of course, the sun, this is not to scale. The sun, as you probably know from school, is a whole lot bigger than the Earth. The Earth would be, if this was the real size of the sun, the Earth would be smaller than my pinky here. But because this is the size of the globe that we have and the size of light that we have, we'll just have to go with this. So, of course, the Earth is always spinning on its axis. And can you remember from school? The younger kids are now learning this. The older kids know this by heart. When the Earth goes around its axis, one full rotation, we call that one day. Now, of course, the Earth is always spinning, but it's also always moving, and it's revolving around the sun as it continues to spin on its axis. One full revolution around the sun, that takes 1 year to happen. So it's always spinning and moving around the sun. Now, the sun is so very hot, it's about 50,000 degrees Celsius or something like that at the surface of the sun. And so that energy heats the Earth. Here's the United States. Let's see if we can find the United States. And in summertime, it's beating right down over our heads on Middle Tennessee. And so it's heating the ground up, and then the ground in turn heats the air above. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Earth, especially down toward the South Pole, it's a lot colder. So the sun's heat is a big part of what's going to happen. And then when the sun sets, we cool off, and that helps make clouds. In fact, let's take a look at a couple of clouds. I've got this over here, this computer, and this shows some interesting cloud formations. These, of course, are a lot more neat to look at. So we have puffy cumulus clouds. We have, these are probably called altostratus clouds. They make for beautiful sunrises and sunsets. This is what we call a cumulonimbus cloud, or a thunderstorm. And then these are thunderstorm clouds with some other high clouds making for a nice sunset. This right here, hollowed out in the middle, that's actually a hurricane. So a hurricane has an eye amidst all these clouds. And then finally some cirrus clouds. And I call cirrus clouds the ones that are high in the sky and harmless. So if you want to take a trip somewhere, you fly on a jet airplane when it's safe to do that again, and you fly amongst some of the clouds when you're at your cruising altitude having your snack, those are likely cirrus clouds that you're flying through if you see them out the window. Now, what we're going to do is, I've got two experiments. I love my experiments. So we've got two experiments to demonstrate why clouds form. Clouds form because of three different things. Of course, the sun is responsible in part for that. For clouds, you need dust, water, and colder air. So 2/3 of the planet, 2/3, if we come back to our globe here for a minute, 2/3 of the world, so about 67%, is covered in water. The other 1/3 are the land masses. So there's so much water available, and a lot of that is in the sky. And then we also have dust. Now think about for a second the last time you noticed dust in the air. Dust is important because that is the surface on which these cloud droplets can form, little tiny cloud droplets. Dust, we have dust when it hasn't rained for a long time and the wind blows and it sends some of the dust in the air. Dust is actually, smoke is made of fine particles of dust. And so when we have forest fires, that dust goes up into the air and it helps make clouds. Now we also need colder air, as I talked about. Now the interesting thing is this is a little experiment to show how we can make cold air. And cold air is made in the atmosphere every single day. And that happens, we talked about this a little bit yesterday with air pressure. When the air rises, the pressure goes down and the air gets colder. Isn't that amazing? So the air rises, the pressure decreases, and the air gets colder. And so we have a can. This is a can I think I got it at Lowe's. You can get these at Home Depot. You can get them at Costco. It's a can of compressed air. As long as we keep the size of the can, this is a metal can, so we're not going to change the size. As long as we keep that the same, the temperature in here has to go down if I lower the pressure. So again, this is sort of getting complicated, but it's going to be fun to see. If I let some air out of here, this can will get colder because the pressure will go down. Similarly, when the air rises, the pressure goes down, and so the air must get colder, and that helps make clouds. So what I'm going to do is, you could do this at home too. Just need to get your parents to buy one of these for about $5. I'm going to let some air out of this can. You may actually see some of it come out, and so it's just, I think it's just a straight nitrogen. It's something that's in the air. Can you see that? You can actually see it coming out. Now, what I'm going to do is my kids, wow, it's already freezing my hands. My kids are sitting over in the distance. Anyone want to come over and help me out? They were my helpers yesterday. What was they doing? Why wouldn't they? I got Hudson. Hudson, does that feel cold? Feel that. Tell everybody loudly. Does that feel sort of cold?
Yes.
Yes. Sadie, does that feel sort of cold?
Yes.
Hey, can you see this at home? That's ice or frost that is formed along the straw connected to the can. Look at all that, because the can has gotten so cold. All because we've lowered the air pressure. And so that's part of it. So we lower the air pressure, things get cold. So why don't we make a real cloud before we take your questions and wrap things up for today's Weather School for Kids. Let me move my globe out of the way. Now this is an interesting one. This is my cloud in a bottle experiment. And a little dusty. It sits in the garage typically. This actually, kids, many kids who are school age now watching this, I bought this before you were born. I bought this probably back in 1996 when you would go to the grocery store and you wanted a gallon bottle of juice, like apple juice or grape juice, and it would come in glass bottles like this. Eventually the grocery store smartened up and they stopped putting them out like this because it falls on the ground in the grocery store because of some kid knocking it over and it breaks and makes a mess. So this, if we dropped it, this bottle will be gone. But it's about 25 years old. It's glass. It was probably grape juice. I drank it all. I cleaned it up. I peeled off the label. I stuck on the back a piece of black construction paper. And then I went to the hardware store and I got a little rubber, tube here, and I cut a hole in that metal cover and I taped it down as best I could. This is my cloud machine. Now, it's a funny story for the parents. I used to be in the Air Force. And when I was in the Air Force and then moved into TV, the TV stations would move me. So they actually came to my house when I lived back in Arkansas, and they packed up my whole house, except for this. I went upstairs when the packing was done, and this was sitting at the bottom of my closet. They didn't want to touch this. They were afraid of it. They didn't know what this thing was. But I told them, I said, hey, this is my weather experiment. It's not something, I'm not into bad things, so don't worry about that. And we'll leave it at that. Okay, so let's take the cap off. And now we have to use matches for this, so kids, you can't do this. You got to get your parents to participate. But the reason we're going to use matches for this cloud in the bottle is because, as I showed you before, take a look at this. We need water for clouds, we need dust for clouds, and we need some colder air. So again, we've got water. Can you see that? Water. We're going to add some dust, as I said before. Forest fires have a lot of smoke, and smoke is made of dust, so we'll put the dust in here, and then we'll use colder air. We'll make colder air, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So I'm gonna light 2 matches. The smoke detectors are far enough away, but we've got a fire extinguisher nearby, just in case something happens. Hey, I've done this for probably 1,000 different groups of school kids, 1,000 different schools. And Clarksville Middle, if you're watching right now, I believe it was your school about 10 years ago. I went up there and I set off all the fire alarms in the school. We had to evacuate the entire school. So, but it's only happened once in my whole career. So hopefully that doesn't happen here today. So I light a match carefully and I blow it out because I want that smoke and dust to go into my bottle. And I just toss the lit match that is now blown out back into the sink around some water. Let's do it one more time.
I'm not sure that will work, Dad.
You'll see. Ooh, a lot of smoke with it. So we're in good shape. Now let's cover it up. Now the last thing I need to do to make a cloud, because you don't see a cloud yet, is to remove some air. I've got to lower the air pressure, just as we did here a couple minutes ago, to make a cloud form. Now when I do this, it's not going to look like a puffy cloud. It's going to look foggy. Did you know that fog is just a cloud on the ground? Fog is just a cloud on the ground. And so it's going to look foggy in this bottle. Stare as hard as you can in the bottle. It's only going to last a couple seconds, then it'll go away, then I'll do it again, and you can see it again. We get the tube out of the way. So we get a good view here, and hopefully, so I got to use this tube and remove some air. So take a look in the bottle, stare at that black background. Let's see if we see a cloud. 1, 2, 3. Did you see the change? Did that go out on TV there? 1, 2, 3. It's there and it's gone, just like that. So water, dust, and colder air. Hey, a lot of farmers need rain from clouds. Clouds, again, so important. They help regulate the Earth's temperature. Without clouds, it would get so hot because of the sun. So we're so grateful for clouds. I hope you learned something and had fun at Weather School for Kids. Tomorrow, Lisa Spencer is on at 11 o'clock in the morning. She's on Thursday as well. Then I believe Cody Murphy from News 4 and the 4-1 Storm Team does Weather School for Kids on Friday. Let's check for any questions real quick. Thank you all for participating. This has been great. Hopefully that was fun for you. Good, Easton, age 9 is there. Thank you for joining Easton. Patricia down in Decatur, Alabama. So we're getting out of the Middle Tennessee area. Awesome. You're so welcome, Jennifer. You're so welcome, Jane. Awesome. Bridget, a 3rd grader at St. Henry School. All right, good morning. James and Madeline, 9 and 6, watching. Hope you kids got something out of that. Fun. Thank you, Tanya. My kids love to help. Yeah, no, someone says I need to put on shoes. I'm more comfy with bare feet, especially in my own home. Good. I'm glad you like these lessons. Oh, Chantel says go Air Force. Yep, former Air Force. Awesome. All right, terrific. Thank you, folks, so much. I should have flipped the camera so you could see me. I'm on TV on News 4 at 4 o'clock today, and then Lisa Spencer, News 4 at 5 and beyond. In fact, I'm on at noontime. I got to go out there and set up my lights and bring them outdoors and get my forecast ready. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.